I think I have a really important question for you and for all of us. How do we educate the children to integrally develop healthy and to be healthy human beings and to get to this point without having to suffer so much?
Yeah.
And with us achieving a certain understanding in the world, how do we help them to live more well, I guess?
Yeah. Do you work with children, by the way?
I have a little bit. I actually just got into Naropa. I started off in a Western university and left school for a while, and I'm returning, and I just put together a study looking at early childhood development, education, health and wellness from the East and the West to work with this.
Yeah. I sort of thought that you might have been into this a little bit.
I think it's all about the little ones.
Do you have any suggestions?
Do I have any suggestions?
Sure.
Well, I know it's
briefly, but
I know it's not easy at home, because sometimes the parents that these children are around are not developmentally at a stage or at a state where it's really conducive for their healthy development.
Yeah.
And so I haven't done a lot of research myself, but I want to look into how we get into the educational systems.
Yeah.
How do we make an influence? How do we start a charter school? How do we affect a lot of people, on a bigger scale that's pretty practical?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the most important question, and it's also the most contested in terms of how to do it, of course, because you don't want, you can see how this thing goes in terms of education being important, but if Oral Roberts wanted to come in, and rearrange the educational program of all the schools in the United States, people wouldn't want to do it. He's a fundamentalist, so there's no trust there. It's extremely difficult to get some of these school reforms through because we have at least these three very broad levels of development that happen to be really at each other's throats. And those are traditional, modern, and postmodern. And those three value structures are the core of this whole culture wars that we have going on. And these culture wars are going to continue. It was not common to find culture wars if you go back to when the greatest altitude was red or egocentric or something. There's only one other major level, and that's purple or magic. So all you had to do to be a fully transformed adult is manage one transformation. And then that's it. For the rest of your life, that's fundamentally all you had to do. So that's why these societies look so simple to us in a positive way. But if you go back and actually look at it carefully, it's simple because doesn't have a lot of these higher stages that are so very difficult. By the time you introduce, to use a color scheme that we sometimes use, amber and then orange and then green and then teal, the average adult now has to go through 6 major transformations in order to be an adult. Something can go wrong at every transformation. So modern societies have more ways of being sick than tribal societies can literally even imagine. And a lot of people draw the wrong conclusion then, which is that the tribes were enlightened and living one with in a perfect state of enlightened equanimity. It's categorically not true. And the actual research now on what tribal life was like is it's pretty brutal and it's pretty constant warfare. And there's studies now showing how scholars, green meme scholars, have deliberately distorted data. Good-heartedly, but the whole notion of a peaceful warrior and that kind of thing, total. Well, the person out of Oxford who was doing this called it delusional. So we have to get a really, really realistic sense of which direction we need to go for growth, and it's not backwards. And it has to be forwards with all of the perils therein. But we really have 6 or 7 major ways of being sick. And that's why the cultures, Western cultures, can truly appear and be a nightmare. You can have a pathology at purple, you can have a pathology at red in your own being. You can have a pathology at blue or amber, you can have a pathology at orange, and then you can arrive at green. And you're going to be a mess. And many of us, can relate to that. We know exactly how hard we've had to fight to deal with these. But you can think of the chakras. Something can go wrong at every chakra. So that's one of the things that we have to deal with, and it's a very, very, very difficult issue. For educational purposes, what you then want to think about is, well, what is now the healthiest thing that we can do? And the way that always starts is, you can't stop here, but you have to start with, what is the best map we have of human potential that a child can become? If they have potentials and we don't know they're there, we're not going to even look for them, let alone try to educate them. So if you take something like Dan Goleman's emotional intelligence, for all the criticism he got and the way that he distorted its original meaning and all of that, the general idea, nonetheless, is that here's another intelligence that education hasn't been paying much attention to, which is kind of crazy because emotional intelligence seems to be a better predictor of life success than cognitive development or kinesthetic development and so on. So what we want is the best possible map we can get. And right now, the integral maps seems to be the one that makes the most room for most of these other capacities. So where we are with education is we haven't got to the point where we're putting it into play. Well, we have graduate programs in education. I can talk about those, but we're mostly talking about children. The graduate programs, we have 2 fully accredited master's degree program now. We're close to an accredited doctoral program, and we expect to have at least a dozen of these programs with different universities within about 5 years. So that part's all working really well. But we do have a college or center for integral education. And that's exactly, you want to say, okay, what do you do in the first year of life? What do you do in this year? What do you do in this? What are the common things that arise? But from a truly integral perspective. And that's all right now, frankly, it's virgin territory. The amount of work that's really been done on that is almost nil. And I know it upsets some people, but there's an enormous amount of work that's been done in so-called holistic education. And if you look at that carefully, it's mostly healthy green. Healthy green is a very positive thing. But we're trying to focus on the next step where you actually get an integral going on, because that really changes how you see all of these earlier stages. So we're hoping to get that done. If you have an interest in this, come join us, because we can use help.